Well, joining us now, as promised, One Nation leader Pauline Hanson. Pauline, always great to have you here on Outsiders. Congratulations to One Nation senators for voting for Ralph Babette's amendment there, bill there, urgency motion there. Tell us about the...
How could you not? Rowan, I've got to say to you, Rowan, I've got to tell you about this. I am so furious that Jackie Lambie did not vote for it either. There was only 10 that voted for it and 26 against, and most of the Nationals and a lot of the Nationals and most of the Liberals abstained from voting with it. So that goes to show how woke our Parliament has become. I'm furious about this, but we'll keep pushing ahead with it and try and get some common sense back and protect human life.
Fantastic. Rita?
I want to ask you about the Teals. I spoke about the Teals and their railing against poor parliamentary behaviour. Have they ever, any of these women, took a stand for you? You've been absolutely monstered in the Senate. You've had all sorts of vitriol aimed at you from other senators. Have any of these Teals even privately reached out to show you some support?
Sorry, I've just lost you.
Oh, no.
Okay, we've just lost... Okay, we will get Pauline back in a second.
I think I can answer that for her. The answer is no, Rita. They never have. That's pretty much the answer. Because I don't think in the last couple of decades I have seen a politician cop the abuse and just hostility, vitriol, ugliness as much as Pauline Hanson has. And she has withstood it, and she does not play the victim, which is something I really admire about her, because she's actually got plenty of grounds to...
Great, we've got Pauline back.
She's back.
Pauline, Rita answered for you, but I bet you can tell us anyway.
I haven't heard from them. As far as I'm concerned, Parliament is not, a waltz in the park. You either toughen up, ladies, and stop using your sexism to actually, say that you're a victim. You're not a victim. You're there to do a job for the Australian people, and it's a tough job at times. Look, I've had everything bar the kitchen sink thrown at me. I still do, even last week. The name calling, everything. It's like water off a duck's back, try something else, because they can't debate me on the issues and they can't tell me where I'm wrong. So the whole fact is, they're a bunch of galahs down there, they really are. They don't have common sense, their policies, their issues that they push, especially the Greens. They're a nasty piece of work, and I'm telling people, really understand their policies, what they're pushing, because it's not in the best interest of this country or the Australian people. So I don't take notice of it, Rita. I stand my ground on many issues. I will fight for the Australian people, and I stand by my morals and my principles.
James.
Senator, we had a little while ago somebody from Orange, New South Wales, speaking about this gold mine that has been kiboshed by Tanya Plibersek, the Environment Minister, invoking a section of an Aboriginal Protection and Heritage Act after the local Aboriginal Land Council had signed off and said, no, we don't have a problem with this mine going forward at all. Put aside the 800 jobs and the $200 million in royalties and taxes that this is going to cost New South Wales here. This would seem to be, and I want to get your thoughts on this, to be a horrible message to send to all of the regions of Australia that investment projects, mines, resources projects could be shut down simply on the basis of a minister and a government that decides they don't like mining and resources extraction, and who knows, maybe farming is next, and will use some sort of way to use Aboriginal protection to shut this down. It's a massive sovereign risk, isn't it?
Of course it is, James, by all means. One person should not have the right to overrule an environmental protection which is passed, or that the Aboriginals are quite happy with it. It brings prosperity to the state, it brings jobs, it brings money, and it needs to happen. One person should not be able to overrule that. We have set laws in place that they must be passed, then to be approved, and for have a minister to do that. I think it needs to be looked at. And Anthony Albanese needs to overrule her decision, because what's the whole point of going through environmental protection laws? Everyone goes through the whole process, and then for one person to say, no, I'm sorry, you can't do it, it stinks to high heaven to me. It sounds like there's more to this than what we're seeing. But anyway, I haven't got anything to go on with that, but that's just my opinion with it. It's what's happening across the country, the overruling. This government is so dead set on shutting so much, industry, what's happening in our country, the taking over of our land by the Aboriginal corporations. I fear for the future where we are headed under the Labor Greens government.
Well, Pauline, I wanted to ask you about those 15 Queensland towns being taken over. There's a list of them. I've had a letter from a guy called Rex, who's an Aboriginal elder in one of the towns, Tubia, who's saying that he's writing about his concerns about the takeover there of the town common and other land there. It's the birthplace of his mother. He's an Aboriginal elder. He wasn't consulted. It's been taken. In other words, one mob takes it over and yet another mob believes that it belongs to them, and probably with justification in this case. And we've seen this before. As you say, the threat to sovereignty, to sovereign rights and so on seems to be out of control.
It is out of control. Since Mabo and the Wick decision, the whole thing has just blown completely out of proportion. And they brought in the Native Title Act in 1991 in Queensland. Now, since that time, they've actually handed over 6.7 million hectares freehold Crown land to Aboriginal groups and organisations. Apart from that, Rowan, John Howard put $1 billion into a fund in perpetuity to actually buy land as well. Then you've got native title claim. In Queensland alone, we've got 73 native title claims. 54% of Australia is now under native title, plus another 12% to be determined. Tubia only, this only came to light because the people of Tubia wrote to every politician. I was the only one that responded to them. I went out, I met the locals. They told me they had no consultation for a matter of about 3 years, and it came to light because one of the locals wanted to buy some land, was denied it. I spoke to Lawrence Springborg, who was the mayor, who was a former president of the LNP. He was all for it. It was kept undercover. He told me under state legislation there does not have to be consultation with the locals in the area. It must be kept secretive. This is what's happening in 15 towns throughout Queensland, Maryborough, Mount Isa, Tubia, all these towns, there's 15 of them. People want to know it, please go to our website and we'll inform you about it. But it is disgusting what is happening. One Nation is the only party who's prepared to actually throw the Native Title Act in Queensland out. We are the only ones who are standing up for it. Christopher Lee and the Labor Party are all for treaty. They are all for handing this land over to Aboriginal groups and organisations. Just recently, last week, 484,000 hectares was handed over, just 250 kilometres from Tennant Creek. Now, this is going on continually all the time. It is dividing our nation. It is pitting black against white. I have always stood up for migrants, those born here, as Aboriginals, Torres Strait Islanders. We are all Australians, have a right to enjoy this country, everything that it has to offer equally. But I'll tell you another thing too. By getting hold of the land, and under the Labor and the Coalition Party a few years ago, they actually then passed the Land and Sea Council. Now they've handed rights to the Commonwealth waters plus land, water above and below the ground, and they'll be looking at as well, so they have a right over that. We are in huge problems with this. This is the major political parties have done this to divide this nation. I'm warning people, we are the only ones who will put a stop to this and make sure that every Australian, regardless of your cultural background, that we are actually entitled to this country and not shut out from it or have to pay rent or tax on it.
Fantastic. Pauline Hanson, always great to chat to you. Thanks so much, and some wonderful insights there.